All right, welcome everyone. I have some new people here today, some returning faces. Um, as we mentioned in our last email, if you saw that yesterday, I guess last week, everything runs together. We did a podcast, Maureen and I did a podcast recording with a few people from these calls and conversations, and that was really fun and inspiring, and able to hear what people are doing sometimes more than we're able to hear in these conversations, and really go in and let people connect and things like that. So as you know, none of us are a stranger at all to there's a lot of bad headlines, there's a lot of really difficult things going on, but I wanted to start with just asking a few people to share their kind of impact and what's been going on in the last year and what they've I know some of you work on more than Ukraine, and then some of you are dedicated specifically to Ukraine that join these calls. But I'm curious, just as let's start with some good news and talk about some of the good things that have happened. And so, Vicki, I'm going to pick on you first because you always have this that you're able to roll off your tongue. And you guys just rolled out your impact report not long ago for last year. And so, tell us some of the good things that have happened at Matter.
Oh gosh. So specifically with respect to our help in Ukraine, is that what you mean?
I'm
Because
good with you sharing
Anywhere,
either
yeah.
way.
so,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are aware that Matter does lots and lots of different things. So we wear many hats. We're a small but mighty team. And we are now running 13 innovation hubs, which are offering tech education to underserved youth around the world, mainly in Zimbabwe. We're launching an internship program there to create jobs for these kids. And we've got 22 kids going through that. We are also advancing an agricultural project where we are educating a few hundred women in villages in Zimbabwe about the health aspects around a specific product called chaya. And we're running a small entrepreneurial business, social enterprise within that operation. We're doing product research right now so that we can create a product and create a market and be able to purchase chaya leaves from these women so that they've got not only the plants to use and feed their families, but also that we can pay them for those leaves and create a product and have a small business to help others. And so those are just a few of the other really fun things that we're doing. It's so inspiring. But then on the medical side, we are rocking and rolling. We are now working with a couple hundred hospitals around the country to collect medical supplies and equipment from all over the country. And happy to say and proud to say that our association with you guys has led to us being able to distribute over $2 million in supplies last year to Ukraine.
Fantastic.
That's awesome, Vicki. You guys are mighty.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. We had an event last week, and even for me, I work here, I live it and every day, but to have people come in and just celebrate with us is always re-energizing.
Yeah.
How do you guys partner with hospitals, or how do you get them to, like, how do hospitals learn about Matter in order to use you as an avenue for their supplies rather than, I don't know, landfill?
Yes, so that's a really good question. So it's one of my main jobs this year. So what we're doing a variety of things. One is to reach out to the C-suite social enterprise, not social enterprise, the social responsibility employees, people who are in charge of sustainability.
Okay.
We also work with supply chain managers and facilities managers. Sometimes it's tough getting the word out. There are a lot of hospitals who would like to know that there's a Matter out there to help them.
Yeah.
And they don't. So if anybody has any tips or ideas or anyone that they know within a hospital group that they could provide introductions to me, that's a really great place to start, just to have a name to get in. But we do find that some of the hospital groups are really smooth, and they have a method and a procedure in place to donate their excess to a variety of places. Much of it goes to mission projects. And we find that other hospitals are pretty scrappy about it. They're sort of deer in the headlights. Oh my gosh, now we've got this warehouse full of extra things and we don't know what to do with them. And So somewhere in the middle is sort of how everybody's operating right now. But the ones who are operating in a more scrappy sense, I mean, those are the ones we can step in and say, hey, hit the easy button. We can send a truck. And all you have to do is load it up. And in many cases, we can pay for that shipping. In other cases, hospitals have a budget for disposal. And so they use money from that budget to send the things our way.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Congratulations.
one other side note, am I talking too much? I don't want to
No.
bore.
No, not at all.
So one
Yeah.
other side note is one thing that makes Matter different is that we are on midway through a goal of becoming a fully self-sustained model of charity. And so that means that within our operations, we have two little social enterprises that are bringing in revenue to help us cover all of our overhead costs, our salaries and lights and rent. And one of them is related to this medical supplies mission, the Matter 360. So after we take everything in and we give things away to mission organizations, we support all of our projects in hospitals and clinics in 18 different countries. We still have things left over that have value. And so they've been donated to us. And so we sell them. And we're raising funds now. The money that we bring in for those sales are helping us become a fully sustainable model of charity.
That's fantastic. I think
Yeah.
we'll continue to see, I know some of the other nonprofits I've spoken with, they're working on just their social enterprise model and their revenue model and increasing revenue streams. And so, yeah, I think that we'll continue to see that, and good for you guys for being ahead of the curve for sure.
Thank you.
Incredible work. Tanya, can I call on you? Are you willing to chat? I know you may not be in a position to where you are, but would love to hear what the MedShare team has been up to.
We did not mean to trick you and
Wow.
yeah. They were like, oh darn, I thought I came on audio and no one was gonna call on me.
I know, yeah. No kidding. Oksana, it's good to see you.
Hi guys, I'm gonna be on mute because I still have babies asleep, but I just
It's
really
okay,
wanted
we're
to
all
join. Finally,
human.
I
Go
made
Take
it
care of
to
those
join.
babies.
Yeah.
How have things been going in your world?
Good, very hectic, a lot of work, and we are preparing some things for you as well. So as soon as we have something, I will holler to you, Maureen, and to you, Christy. Christy, are you the
Okay.
one on SMM in logistics?
I'm
In
sorry.
vectors? Are you the one on SMM? Social media?
Yes, sometimes, yes.
Okay, then I will be messaging you soon.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Oksana, I sent her all the pictures and stuff that you sent me. I forward them all to Christy.
Yeah.
Videos.
Good. Okay, then I will be just sending it to you, right, Christy?
Yeah, either way.
When
We
I-
both love seeing
when
them,
I
and
will-
we share them with the team and everything too. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I will
for
be-
those of you who are not aware, Oksana has been the ones helping to get the letters, the children's letters distributed in and around Ukraine to children and soldiers, and has been a terrific partner since the beginning. And her own organization, Mama Plant a Tree, has been planting trees in Western Ukraine. And so just helping bring some life and some happiness back there. So it's good to see you on here, and yes, take care of those babies.
Thank you. Happy to find that I could make it to join.
I know, yeah, I know, we've missed you. Vlad, let's hear you've give us some recap on some of the things you've done over the last year.
Over the last year, we've been very active with a group of people in our community, in our area, and it was a very good and joint effort from all the volunteers here locally in Venice and Northport, Florida area, and Sarasota, and with everybody's effort, I mean, we were able to send actually a total of 10 containers with like, I think with half of them you guys helped, and the other ones were sent through another organization, but we had no control over where it went when we sent it through the other organization. So they kind of, I mean, we knew generally where it was going, but you couldn't like control a lot of the aspect of the distribution in Ukraine. But it was first, when you're kind of in it and you're going through all the challenges and difficulties and a lot of hard work. You don't realize how much impact you actually caused as a group until you turn back a year later and you look back and you're like, wow, we as a group did all this. And it turns out to be a lot once you kind of go through the timeline. So it brings this charge, kind of like, positive charge, and it kind of refills you, even though sometimes you feel like, oh, you get tired of, here and there, but it kind of gives you the charge to go on and continue to do good things.
Yeah, that's incredible. And yeah, your trucking company has certainly been working hard on this. You've worked with a hospital, you've worked with different ministries, and so be proud of everything you've done, and hopefully your team is able to see and hear about that impact as well, because that's got to be really motivating for them too.
And
Yep.
Vlad, when we first started working with you, didn't you just come back from flying supplies over there? Or am I confusing you with somebody else?
No,
Like,
we did.
Didn't you
Those
take
are the
medicine or
prescription.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, that was our prescription medication, because
Okay.
we couldn't just send them.
Right.
So we had to we
Yeah.
had to have a courier actually fly it over there. We actually did that twice.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, we did that
That's worth
twice.
noting in this like public forum that
Mhm.
you not just ship stuff, but you got on a plane with some suitcases as well.
Yeah, there was a lot. It was like $300,000 worth of pills.
Wow.
That,
Wow.
I mean, it was kind of like we had all the documents, but it was kind of risky, because you get next thing you
Yeah,
know, they're
that was
showing you on
actually, I was
CNN.
wondering how that worked. Okay.
Yeah, no, we had a lot of backup
My
documents, but
doctor totally prescribed all these. I'm just bringing them on the kid.
yeah, like, yeah, after I take all these, I'll be dead.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mm,
But still,
Awesome.
you don't know what the custom person is going to say.
Yeah.
You don't know what
exactly.
you don't know what they're going to, the reaction. I mean, obviously we knew it wasn't going to, get, we might get held up for a little while until they figure it out, but we knew that we had a lot of backup documents not to be called drug smugglers.
Yeah.
So
Right.
That's
Wow.
fantastic. Frederick, are you able to speak today?
Yep, we're just continuing to collect goods, and would like to get together with you again on a phone call in the next day or so about getting them out the door.
Mhm.
And I'm getting ready to head over to Ukraine later this month. So if there's stuff that needs to go with a person, let me know and I'll take it for what it's worth.
Fantastic. Yeah. If you want to tell everybody just real quickly about yourself and your organization for some of the newer faces in here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Global Humanitarian Assistance, I started after the war started, having seen what was going on with the Russians in Aleppo. And we have a 501c3 here in the United States. We also have a charitable organization both in Ukraine and in Poland. So if there are any issues that people have getting things either in or through Poland, we can help with that, because we're actually an entity there, or in Ukraine. So, and we have legal assistance in Ukraine on retainer. So if there are any legal issues that come up having to do with import, export, or just logistics within the country, that would be something we might be able to help folks with if they have a need. We have more the need of getting stuff out of here and overseas, sort of thing. So, and I've been working on that, but we'll talk about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just message me when you're ready to talk again, and Valeria and Nicole and I are here to help get that moving for you.
Mhm.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to chime in on, I guess, what they've seen or impact they've had over the last year, or news they want to share, or anything like that?
I had wondered if anybody's doing anything with either housing or rebuilding schools. We have an apartment. We actually have an apartment, and we're getting ready to have another apartment in Lviv. But there are a lot of folks without housing or degraded housing, that sort of thing. So that's one question I had. And then I'm beginning to hear that rebuilding schools is something that might need to be done. So
Yes.
Is Mark on here? I thought I saw him earlier. He
I
was,
think he was, and then
working.
maybe he dropped off.
Oh, no, I see him here. I don't know. Mark, if you're willing to
Oh,
share anything that
yeah.
you've seen, you're on mute, but over in Europe, Mark is part of a group. He can speak a little bit about, Mark, why don't you tell the group, and also a refresher for those listening after, kind of what you're doing and your team's doing, because you guys have a large impact and you're much closer than we are.
Is that me you're talking about, this Mark?
Yeah, you, Mark. Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
The only reason I asked is you acted like I've been on this call before, but this is my first time on this call. So thanks very much for having me, guys. I mean, it's
Yeah.
You've obviously had these calls before that I didn't know they were taking place, and
We've emailed or something before, because we're connected on LinkedIn, and I thought that we had either emailed or maybe through like Auntie Sorsa or somebody. You work with Auntie, right?
It was right back at the beginning of the conflict,
Yeah.
actually, more, and you were looking for somebody to try and assist you to get a container of meds
Yeah.
in country, but you needed somebody on the receiving end to basically receive them and
Right.
and I did put you in contact with Copernicus. I don't know whether I think that actually.
Yeah, they
Yes.
were on our call, and we've shipped a couple containers for them. They were actually on the panel that we did last week. So yeah, I couldn't
That's
remember.
right,
We've
yes.
had these calls for almost a year now. There's been so many different faces and names, and then you see things on LinkedIn. And I thought that we had at least spoken somehow, but maybe we just emailed. So I feel like I know you already.
The emails at the very beginning,
Okay.
and as it was to sort of assist and join dots really, and just make the network work.
Yeah.
None of us can do anything really on our own. We all need assistance and contacts and people to receive things and last mile and all that kind of thing. And I was actually over in Poland, if you remember, and that's why I managed to assist in some way there. So I'm not actually a logistics company. I'm a supply company. We've been supplying into Ukraine. We're supplying to other arenas as well. Turkey and Syria right now, of course, with the earthquake. We supply humanitarian aid products mainly, and we've been supplying into Ukraine now pretty much since day one of the conflict. Initially, when the urgent need was for IFACs, we put a few thousand IFACs in there. We've worked largely with NGOs on the ground. We supply to them. We work with an Irish NGO, Goal Global. I don't know if you're familiar with Goal Global. They are essentially fitting out all sorts of village halls and things like that. They're working with the local mayors and things like that in the towns all over Ukraine. And we have been supplying pretty much everything that goes into what IDPs, internally displaced centres. So we've been supplying furniture, white goods, cleaning products, health kits, medicine, food packages, all that kind of thing, pretty much for the whole year, non-stop, truck after truck, pretty much. And of course, since they started decimating the power grid, we've supplied hundreds of generators of all sizes, domestic generators for houses, bigger ones that have powered hospitals, schools, and businesses as well, actually, just to keep the economy moving, So yeah, essentially that's what we've been doing. And just to top that off, this week we are actually registering officially. My country manager is over there exactly now, just signing off on the final documentation to register Red Source in Ukraine. Essentially, we're there. We're not just there for the humanitarian aspects. We're going to be there for the redevelopment eventually when that does begin. You know, we've obviously got to get the conflict out of the way first. But we're there for the long haul, essentially. You know, we're not just in and out. We'll be there for years to come. And we'll just do what we can do. And hopefully we can do as much as you guys have been doing, because from what, even just on the little anecdotes that I've just heard there, my God, the efforts you guys have been making for the last year are pretty incredible, I would say.
Thank you.
Well, I think Vlad put it well when he said this is a collective effort. You know, a lot of what Vector did and the point of this wasn't necessarily for us to, you know, be in charge or control all the transportation. It was really meant as like a connecting tool and a platform to link up, you know, because we work with people all over the world. Just because of what we do, we thought it made total sense to create a platform where everybody can connect, and it's not like Vector doesn't have to be a part of all the side conversations or transportation transactions or whatever. We're just trying to kind of use our powers for good. And you know, what we can help with from the transportation side, great. But like what you did for our Copernicus group, you know, you introduced us to them. And that was my faulty memory. I couldn't remember where we had first connected or how, because it's been a blur. But then we've created a stronger relationship with Copernicus Group, and now we're doing another container with them with Matter, with Vicky's group. And I can't remember if the first one was from them either, but you know, those connections all happened because we all got on a call like this or shared things on LinkedIn or any platform for a purpose, for trying to you know, do good and serve others. And that's where we got to this collective, like, let's step back after and look back in a year or the past year and look at what we've all accomplished, because you know, none of us did it in our own bubble. So
yeah, thank you for being here. And Mark, if you also want to share your details or website or anything in chat, then please feel free to do that so that everyone has access and can learn more about you.
Yes, thank you. I'll do that. Thank you very much.
And Tanya is having mic issues, but she is from MedShare, which we're big fans of. And so I'm going to put their Ukraine link in chat just so everybody can read more about what they've done and are doing in Ukraine, and very active everywhere that there is a disaster going on for sure. And they've been at this for a long time. So thanks to the MedShare team as well. And Maureen, for Frederick, I'm forgetting who is in construction that we just talked to. Same thing. So many good conversations and good people out there running together. But he might be somebody that we could connect to Frederick for the reconstruction stuff.
in Ukraine, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It might come to me like the second we hang up.
Unfortunately, around 2 a.m. probably. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm up at 2 a.m. talking to folks.
Oh, okay.
You know, so.
Well, good to know you'll be around then.
Mm-hmm. We'll think of it. Christy and I always talk after the call, so we'll talk about 10 different things, and it'll come up like in the side part, a zinger in the side of our brain. There, we'll be like, "Oh, that's
somebody
right."
was working in the reconstruction side of it, so I don't know if they're doing schools or anything specifically, but we can find that out and get back.
Yeah, it'll come to us in the next couple hours, so we'll definitely link you up with them. Yeah.
Anna, are you able to share? I'm not sure where you are or what you're doing right now, so I'm not sure, but we'd love to hear more about, you guys were on last time for the first time, but just more about Homeless World Cup and the tournament that you held in Ukraine and what you guys have planned. Like the teacher in class calling.
Oh, she's saying struggling with Wi-Fi. Give me a few minutes. No worries.
For sure. No problem. Go ahead.
I think once the war ends, I think a lot of the agendas will change, because right now a lot of people are holding back as far as like the reconstruction, because you know some people think, well, we're going to invest all this money into it, and then the rocket will land and blow it all up, and so much for for that. So I think a lot of things will change. I actually met this girl in church. I've known her for a while, but I didn't think she was I mean, I knew she was involved with stuff, but I didn't think she was involved at that level. they actually started getting like these little container homes, like 20-foot containers or something, sticking a window in there, a door,
Mm-hmm.
and having these temporary housing for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing that in Lviv, quite a lot actually. They actually have whole neighborhoods of container homes. But I think there's, and I think that's great. I think there's from what I saw in a report of it, a lot of people are doing that and they think it's short term, but it's becoming longer term,
Mhm.
and they're not really suited for long term housing.
Oh, they're not suited for long term,
It's-
but I mean, with the downturn in the over the seas container volumes from China and stuff like that,
Yeah.
maybe we can research, especially with Vector. They have a lot of connections. Like, like what's the cheapest containers,
Yeah.
out there, just to see if there's anything for that it can be, just to
Yeah.
kind of brainstorm,
Yeah,
what's available.
I think that's a great idea. I just where I was beginning to go with it is we should look at Lviv if that's something we do, because I'm interested in housing. Getting housing is hard. The folks that came out of the East have basically been absorbed in the West, and getting an apartment or two is really difficult.
Well, then correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a lot of stuff getting imported into Ukraine and into Poland, Poland can't export as much as they're importing, because technically everything goes through Poland into Ukraine. So I would imagine there would be a massive surplus of containers just hanging around those countries. I wonder what what would be the cost?
That's a
Mhm.
good point.
What would be,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because they're only going one way. They're not going back the other way.
Mhm.
They could be kind of reshuffling some of those empty containers though over towards more Western Europe, where some of the ports do have more exports. It's possible.
Mhm.
But I wonder, we could ask maybe Hapag Lloyd what that looks like, because they're strong in that area. They would have some insight as to that.
Mhm.
For sure. One of the other questions I was just curious to get this group's opinion on is, some of you have been working in Ukraine or in the surrounding countries for a long time. Some of you, as we heard, have just been up and running since the war started. And I'm just curious for some lessons learned or some observations or something that you've seen over the past year it's been sort of a takeaway for you and your team, whether it's has to do specifically with logistics or just about the people in general, anything like that. So some of us are closer to the issue, some of us are further removed, but as we've been watching the headlines and coming to these groups and hearing just all kinds of stories, and just wondering what your teams and you think about and what you've seen over the past year.
I can share some stuff. I mean, with me, it was like I always followed this rule that my dad taught me. Is in some situation, he says he's crying, and I'm going to interpret that. There's a saying actually in Ukraine. He says he's crying, give me, and you cry and says I can't give this to you. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things that you have to, I guess, learn to say no to. There's certain things that you have to, have to not be shy to discipline. And even, because desperate situations, people can do desperate things that they would never do in their, in the normal life. I mean, in a normal day, peaceful. So you just gotta, sometimes, or a lot of, there's quite a few times you gotta say no. We're not gonna do it this way, because that's not how we want it done. And ABC, this is why. And kind of learn to say no. That's I think that I learned a lot through all this.
Thanks. Maureen, I'll even ask you, since you've been heading this effort for us over the last year and working with our team, and sometimes it's like, okay, that's not open, let's find this route, but just curious as to your thoughts too.
Just on the past year, you mean, of how do we process all of this? I mean, I came into this effort a little bit after, like, Christine and Ricky had started these calls. And I think at first we all thought that this was going to be more of a shorter term effort. And I think now that we have kind of realized this is a longer term conflict and we're adjusting internally, I think that it's really inspiring to see some of the good stories that we're seeing, but it is also a reminder that we don't really, all of us here in kind of the first world with electricity and refrigerators and, you know, running water and grocery stores down the street, it's really hard for us to understand kind of like what is going on a day-to-day basis and what will put you in a position where you have to flee your home and your town with what you can carry on your back because you're carrying your child on your front. And I think that it's a reminder, kind of like what Vlad said, to be understanding and empathetic, that we can't really understand what anyone is going through in another situation, but you know, kindness is free. And I tell my kids that, I'm like, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice, to share, to give what you can give. And that applies to Ukraine and to kind of all situations. But it's important that, you know, we do what we can do. And I think that we at Vector, we're trying to do that. We're trying to really put, you know, our money where our mouth is and say, we want to help, we want to donate, we want to invest our time, we want to invest our people in this because it's the right thing to do. And, you know, it's a nice kind of reality check when, you know, we feel like we're having a hard day. It's all relative, you know.
For sure. Anyone else?
I think it highlights how much we have that we take for granted.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
Yeah.
Evelyn, you're always our words of wisdom person in these
I know.
situations.
Thank you. I'm just listening and seeing how I can help connect people further.
Yeah,
Thank you for everything.
for
Yes.
sure. Always appreciate you showing up. Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of reiterated in the fact of how much we don't know and how much, you know, I think even from the logistics side of it, which in marketing, I'm more removed from that, but compared to Maureen and her team and things like that. But I think going into this, it was just all kind of chaos and how can we help and who do we know and the people we know, are they okay? And all of that kind of stuff. But then, you know, quickly, I think we all realize there's more questions than answers, and sometimes that's still the possibility. And so that's kind of the great thing about showing up here, or the, you know, the conversations that we have behind the scenes and all of that, and just how it does take all of us to figure out solutions and problems together. And that's the great thing about conversations like this, or even when we had the podcast panel, people were like, oh, and we worked with Matter to do this. Oh, and then Matter gave us and so it was like, oh, and then we talked to this person. And so, you know, it was really fun to see people just how they've collaborated together. And, you know, and sometimes it's just like, hey, where are you having success? Or what route are you taking for this? Or how are you handling this? Or does anybody know the customs for this? And so I love that ability to just crowdsource with smart, compassionate people. And so I think that's been a really cool aspect of all of this.
And what I really liked about this group, that, I mean, I've been in it for like a year already with you guys, you know, and I've never once had a conversation that I felt like somebody's ego was above, you know, was above anything, you know, like it was more like very, like trying to help one another and try to kind of work together as a team. And that's very important, you know, that our goal was above us, you know, we were not, you know, we lowered ourselves and like okay, we're going to work as a team and we don't care, you know, who's who or who's what, or, you know, if one person might be smarter than the other, but, you know, we always took like a collective, you know, collective advice, and we made sense of it all and we moved forward. So, and that's very important.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
You know, I wanted to say from the side of Ukrainians, during the war, we learned, everybody says, you know, tell me what you did in 2022 and I'll tell you who you are. said about the
That's a good
Ukrainians.
one.
Yeah. So we basically, the war has shown and has kind of made people naked, if you don't understand what I mean. Like it showed the real person. It showed the real, like really who you are. And being also exposed to a lot of foreigners, being abroad and knowing a lot of people, you in particular, I was personally surprised, and we all actually, we were surprised by different nations, how people behaved and how people helped us. Like we really, something that what we didn't ever expect, for example, Poland, it was a surprise for everyone. Everybody said that we called brothers before a totally wrong nation, the one that is bombing right now, and meaning that Polish are really brothers for us, in bad times. And in general, foreigners sometimes acted more kind and loyal than some of our people from our country. But of course, we never know how it would be if somebody was in that situation. We don't know why they acted so, but still, it's just total different reconsideration of all values in your life, and also making different plans for the future. You don't plan like you used before. You need a house, you need a career. You just seriously, like, you make totally different plans, and much more short term plans rather than long ones, investing more in love and teaching your kids to love, to respect, to help, like you say, rather than acquiring some skills and everything. Skills they will acquire, but love is more important, so no other new war happened. Just a little insight from me.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a good one.
For sure. Mark?
Incredible. Yeah. Well, I mean, fantastic to hear from Oksana there. I mean, we can't really imagine, can we, that we see what goes on our TVs, and some of us have been over into Ukraine, but not really the areas that have been hit the worst, of course. I've seen the displacement that's occurred myself when I was in Poland in the early days, when that unbelievable exodus of people that looked like it was something out of World War II. I mean, it was incredible, the scenes that we were seeing at the railway stations and things like that. And I think you're all right, guys. I mean, things like this can bring the best out in people, and no egos or anything like that. People just want to see what's going on. They just want to help. Just want to do something. Just do something, anything to try and help. Mm-hmm. On the flip side of that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I've also seen conflict brings the worst out of people as well. And from a taking advantage of the situation point of view, there are. I'll give you an example. When there was a real high demand in a very short space of time for the generators, which we got heavily involved in, the amount of fake stock that was suddenly put in the market that didn't exist, the amount of price gouging, the clearing, the theft from warehouses of stocks that were moving in country and things like that. Unfortunately, that comes to the fore. And the beauties of groups like this actually is that when you can actually identify and verify genuine suppliers and genuine logistics people. I don't know if any of you remember, there was a group set up in the very early days on LinkedIn called Procure for Peace. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you got involved in that. Yeah. In the very early days, that was such a useful group, mm-hmm. because, I mean, I found out about that through CIPS, the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply Chain. So at the very, very beginning, it was all genuine procurement people, literally trying to identify what was needed and who were the genuine the genuine suppliers. That lasted about 2 weeks, and then fakes and frauds infiltrated that group as well. So, groups can work really, really well together and do such good things, as long as you can keep these snakes out of the grass,
No,
basically.
I agree. I totally
They are-
agree with you. You really summarized it pretty well. And I think if a group of people, it's like an immune, like immune system in the body. Like we're kind of like a body, and a lot of people or whoever joins the group, if their goal is not kosher, they will kind of like get rejected, not just automatically, even by themselves, they will leave because they'll see there's no room for them to do any funny business. So, and because usually people like we're like kind of like birds, they fly in flocks. Crows fly in flocks. A lot of different, so we're like our own little group, and where we welcome everybody. And the way things we do here with everybody, there's no room as far as like if somebody crooked comes in, he can't really, there's no connection where he can plug in and then he'll just leave. I mean, that's pretty much it. But you made a lot of good points, and that's actually in Ukraine as well. That's where when I was speaking before, I said learning to say no is very, very important, because sometimes there's these vultures out there that you gotta, hey, say no. You gotta, it's not gonna happen this way. So
Absolutely right, Vlad. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Bang on it. Bang on.
Uh,
Thankfully, they are getting easier to spot now. That they're not good at hiding their true colours, to be honest with you. And I think you was it Oksana that raised the point of like it does show you your true skin,
mhm.
Lee, and
yeah.
the fakes don't want you to see their true skin. Do you know what I mean? So they do become quite easier to identify. But I mean, another thing I was going to mention as well, guys. Obviously, you're all bringing in sounds like containers of meds and things like that you've been transiting from wherever. I would guess mainly from the US, but all over the place. With that network, you can also identify, I suppose, depending on who you're sending the items to. You can also identify the live requirements, things that are actually needed. I mean, is that something that you discuss, where you identify a particular NGO is looking for something, or a hospital?
The way I do it, we have like a buddy system. So it's kind of like a buddy system where all these guys who are distributed, like we actually know them through other people that we know for many, many years, and they vouch for them. In addition to that, we have, for example, we'll have like, there'll always be, a group of them will be together, 2, 3 guys, so they're always, watching one another and stuff like that, so, I mean, you will probably have some theft, some, but if you just do your best, you organize it to the best that you can, and, you get these buddy systems in place, and you get recommendations, because I was born in Ukraine, and that's how we did it, and we get reports. Literally, I have probably, I don't know, about 50 letters from actually people, hospitals, just say this was delivered to us, the case count, everything, and I keep it for records in case I ever get audited by anybody, or even you guys say, hey, can we see what you did with all that? I can say, okay, here you go, I've got all these documents, have fun reading them. But I'm just saying that's the best that I've so far came up with as far as like having them, all these regions, whenever they deliver to hospitals, just have them write a letter, what they received.
Yeah, but Mark, kind of more to your question as well, is that we do try and source things. If we hear that of a group that might need them, we'll ask within our contacts or bring it up in our monthly call. But we have kind of maybe inadvertently focused on, shipping product where we have like a direct shipper and a direct consignee, because then there is like the full chain of custody, and we know that the goods are actually getting to intended recipients and they aren't getting held up in a warehouse, whether it be with an NGO or like, you know, a foreign government warehouse. So most of the time we've been just able to connect, you know, this group wants to ship to this group, and then we help make that happen, because then for all of us, we know that there's, you know, a direct point of contact the entire way through the system, and that the goods are actually getting to people that need them. So we've spoken to some people who've talked about kind of how the warehouses are overflowing there because of some of the bureaucracies and actually getting it distributed. So we've been fortunate to be working directly with consignees. But you know, on that note, you know, if there's anyone on the call that has something specific that you need, you know, please let us know now, or, you know how to reach us. If not, you can reach us at ukraine@vectorgl.com or anyway through our website. You know, we aren't just here to help facilitate transportation. We're here if there's a way that we can connect you with somebody that we are working with, you know, in Europe or here who in the US who might have some goods to donate. You know, we're trying to also, you know, play a connector role in this, you know, initiative, not just, oh, it doesn't have to do with transportation. We're not involved. So feel free to reach out. And we'll do what we can, or we'll tell you, you know, if we just don't have any contacts or whatever. But don't be shy about that. So I don't know, Christy, if you have anything else to add for.
No, just wanted to definitely put that out. I know, Frederick, you're still collecting. Is there anything specific that you're looking for or need, or anybody else, of course, can chime in? Is there something specific you need or questions that you have that this group can help find answers to? Then we'll put that out there before we wrap up.
Hi. My
Hi.
Wi-Fi's, I'm sorry if I drop it again. I'm having problems with my Wi-Fi today.
No problem. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, so I was hoping that I would have my partner from Odessa to join today, but sadly he's not been able to. So I was hoping I would be able to speak on his behalf.
Go for it. Of course.
So I'll link in the chat box the charity. It's called the Away Home Odessa Charity Foundation. So I'm from the Homeless World Cup, if anyone doesn't know. It's a Scottish-based charity that uses football to help change perceptions around homeless people and help homeless people change their lives, ideally. Every year we have a tournament, and this year our tournament's going to be in Sacramento in July. And we've invited Ukraine, and so basically I'm trying to help our Ukrainian partner get to Sacramento. They're needing help with fundraising for flights, for kits, and just any help with visa and visa applications. So if anybody knows anywhere that I could contact for help, then that would be really useful.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'll put the charity in the chat box, yes.
And you already had the women's match, right, Anna?
No, it's
No.
all in July.
July. Okay.
July 8th to the 15th.
Okay. I could not remember. And I know nothing about soccer/football, so.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. So I'm just trying to help them fundraise. So if anybody has any ideas, that would be really helpful.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And we're working with them this year and shipping the ball to some of the different tournaments, and Enrique will be at the Homeless World Cup in Sacramento. And yeah, it looks, we've been excited to hear more about the work they do. The creativity of people to solve big issues is just always surprising and not surprising at the same time. It's incredible. Thanks for all the work you do.
So you need airline tickets for folks?
Yeah, ideally they're looking for 20 return flights. They would go from Poland to San Francisco.
Okay. I'm an airline pilot. Let me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How are you?
I can't guarantee anything, but let me see if I can work through Endeavor. I work for Endeavor as a pilot, which is owned by Delta Airlines.
Oh,
And
wow.
let me see what I don't guarantee anything, but let me begin to talk to some folks about that.
Thank you.
Would your lawyer friend know anything about the visas, Frederick?
They would let me work. So let me put my contact information in the chat, and we can do that kind of unilaterally rather than multilaterally in terms of getting in touch
Thank
on
you.
what your needs are. Okay.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Frederick, do you have anything you're trying to source or collect or anything on that front as you gather supplies?
Generators.
Generators. Okay.
The other thing I think maybe would be good to start hearing more about, I was interested in what Vicky talked about with regard to setting up jobs. That's consistent with something a friend of mine has done. Her name's Becca Stevens with Thistle Farms.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she and we're in the same class at the University of the South, and she became the priest that I wanted to become. But
I hope to grow up and to be her one day too. Yeah, I understand.
Well, I wanted to be an Episcopal priest. She has set up jobs that way, and I think as we look at Ukraine long term or midterm, I think a lot of the folks who have been displaced they obviously need aid, but I think they also want jobs, and the more of that. And what I was trying to do last year in Poland with, well, we did it. It's just Becca kind of took it over and did it. Is they're knitting blankets basically for sale in the United States, and so we've got a number of women who are doing that. And that became more Becca's thing. But I'm interested in, and have been interested in, how can we set up individual businesses that these people who are displaced, mostly women, can run, create markets in the West, and become self-sufficient so that the women, as it becomes an ongoing enterprise, they own it. The last thing that I think any of us want is to own a bunch of small businesses in Ukraine. My thing is empowering people, and so I'd be interested in hearing more in a future phone call from Vicky about what she's doing with the Chia Leaves project, and how we might be able to translate that into some actions in Ukraine.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to also reach out to, there's a company called iWorker. It's iworker.co, and I'll put that in the chat as well.
Yes, by the way, you recommended it to me.
Yes, I told Oksana about it.
I gave it to my head of project. He said that he did use it. I don't know if we hired someone from there or not, but
okay.
He said he was using it from there.
Well, and we can do that. That's one of the reasons that I set up charitable organizations both in Poland and Ukraine. We have the ability to set up individual businesses that would become for-profit. They would start as nonprofit supported by charity, but the whole goal is that they create a product that they have ownership interest in, that they can sell. And so part of what we would need to do is establish in the West a market for that and help them with that. And the goal is to support them until they're on their own, and then off they go. So anybody who's interested in doing that, either in Poland or Ukraine, we have the legal structure. We have set up the legal structures to begin to do that.
Okay.
For what it's worth. Because I think somebody said we need to start thinking about the long range part of this. I think a year ago, we all thought, it's going to be over one way or another in a few months. I think now it's may not be over for years in terms of the East. And when it is over, I think the reconstruction side, Mark talked about, being in there for the long run. I think that's where we're going to be with this, with Ukraine. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Frederick, if you know about more about this, to learn how we could do it in US or Canada, because that's exactly the case what we needed. We also on charity in Ukraine, but we need them to establish something in Canada and US, and we actually been looking for like good legal advice for last 2 weeks badly. If you know someone we could question more about, we would really appreciate it. Like to create a branch there, or like we don't even know what is the best for us.
Okay. I put my information in the chat so we can do that.
Appreciate. Thank you. Talk to you.
Yeah. And like I said, I'll reach out to iWorker. They specifically are a social enterprise that hires people. They started the co-founder is he's Venezuelan. So they initially started there. So they hire people as virtual assistants and researchers and online jobs for people in countries in crisis so that they don't have to leave their homes and they still have a way to work and everything like that. So I'll ask him if he's started anything working with people in Ukraine or not. And then I'll also put streetbusinessschool.org in the chat. And I learned about that from Souls for Souls. That is who they partner with for creating their social enterprise model in other countries. And he, Buddy Teaster, the CEO, said they are fantastic. And he's actually been through the program twice himself, but they are all about helping people create businesses in their own countries and things like that. So I have little knowledge of them, but he highly recommends him and I trust him. So that might be a good one for you to check out as well.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot. It's a huge one. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'll have to
I've hired people through Upwork too, that Ukrainian only. So we can hire folks as well if we have a need. And maybe pushing that narrative to other companies, especially IT. You know, much of Ukraine was in terms of skill set is IT, and it's high-end skills. So, but they need to work. So
for sure. Yeah, we've had a couple of those types of companies, people in Ukraine show up to these calls as well, and based in Kyiv or other places too. So yeah, 100%. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Want to respect your time. And so we appreciate so much everyone being here. Great conversation. Good kind of it was good to kind of reflect on the last year as well as we head into this next year and still see the needs ahead of us, but we know we're all working together on this and that makes it a lot easier.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you next month. Please let us know if you need us in the meantime.
Most appreciative.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye.